So one of the things I love to do is I love to go to college campuses and speak, and I'm invited to come talk about a lot of different subjects. And one of the most common questions I get from college students and from people thinking about what college students struggle with is, what's the most difficult objection to the faith that they're going to face? When you think about the average 19 or 20-year-old college student, what's the thing they struggle with the most? And you might think it's lots of things that could be obvious. It could be the problem of evil, it could be the existence of God, it could be things like evolution or what have you. And those are all key issues that are floating around out there. But actually, I don't think that's the most common question they face. And I actually don't think that's the thing that bothers people the most. So what is it that people struggle with the most? And here's what it is. The average believer on the college campus looks around and realizes that virtually every single person he knows, including the vast majority of the professors that he studies under, think that he's crazy. In other words, let's imagine that 10% of the college campus is evangelical, and that'd probably be generous on some college campuses. That means 90% of a person's fellow classmates think Christianity's nuts and it doesn't make any sense at all. More than that, the smartest people on the campus, with all the letters after the name, they have a PhD, they think Christianity is really crazy, and maybe even only 1% of those folks believe. And so think about the average 20-year-old, 19-year-old on a college campus. They're looking around going, why does it seem like the smartest people on the planet are precisely the ones who don't believe? To put the question even a different way that's even maybe more troubling, they're going to ask themselves, what is the chance that I'm right and everybody else is wrong? That's a pretty troubling question. And if not answered, it's going to be like a little sliver in the mind that doesn't go away. They're going to think, okay, so I'm going to sit around on my college campus and say that 90% of my friends are wrong and 99% of my friends are wrong, and I'm the one that's right. Really? Really? That's the way this is going to go? You may wonder why so many people abandon the faith in college. I'm convinced that's one of the reasons. They don't have an answer to that question. But you may not realize that lurking behind that objection is an assumption that people have they don't even realize they have. And that assumption is this, that if something is true, they assume that most people will believe it. If something is true, they assume that most people will believe it. And the converse then operates in their head. If most people believe something, it must be true. And so they look around and think, well, all I have to do is just do mathematics here. 90% of people believe X, X must be true. If most people believe what's simply true. Wow, if only knowledge worked like that. But I think we all know that's not how people form their beliefs. They don't form their beliefs surely on facts, as if they put on a white lab coat and go do the math and go do the science and then reach conclusions. Knowledge doesn't work that way. A very famous book was published in the 20th century by a philosopher by the name of Thomas Kuhn. Thomas Kuhn was not a believer, but he wrote a book called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, and that book was famous for one reason, is it said that even science doesn't work neutrally. Even science doesn't work purely on the basis of fact alone. Rather, science works through a predetermined grid or a paradigm, what we might call a worldview, where people collect data and collect information in light of what they already believe when they start the search. And what Kuhn points out, therefore, is that what you already believe when you start searching for information actually colors the way you accept information or reject information. So here's the big point. When you talk to a college student who's struggling with why they're alone, they have to remember that people don't form their beliefs neutrally. People aren't a blank slate. People come with all kinds of preconceptions and ideas. And even more than that, the Bible teaches that people start off with a fallen, broken heart that's already predisposed to not believe the things of God. Once you realize that people are not neutral and are actually hardwired by virtue of the fall to reject the things of God, now it's not a surprise anymore why many people reject the faith. And here's the big takeaway. Whether mass amounts of people reject the faith and whether the majority of people reject the faith has no bearing on whether it's true. It can still be true even if most people reject it. And in fact, the Bible predicts exactly that narrow is the path to life and many and few will find it, and wide is the path that many will take and many will enter down it. And that we should not expect to be in the majority when we realize the world is set up exactly that way.